Today, I want to tell you about a client who was on track to piss away millions of dollars because he was scared and he had his head up his ass. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Tripp Lanier. For over 12 years, I've spent thousands of hours coaching folks to get out of the rat race, become an authority in their field, and make a great living doing the work they were put on this earth to do. And for more than a decade, I've hosted the New Man podcast, which has been downloaded millions of times and can be found on iTunes or Stitcher. And for whatever I'm about to say, keep what works for you and throw out the rest. So one day my client shows up on the call and he says, "Man, I'm burned out. I'm toast, and I don't know what to do about it." Now, these weren't the words of some corporate wage slave dreaming of owning his own company and selling it for millions one day. These were the actual words of a guy who was going to sell his own company for millions in a matter of days. Let's call him Tom, even though that's not his real name. But Tom had built this company as a kid in his early 20s. At the time he started the business, he said he had about $75 in his pocket. For years, he put his head down, created amazing growth, and now in his mid-30s, he was going to sell his baby and set his family up for the good life, or so it would seem. In reality, this sale and the transition were bringing up a lot of fear. He had a buyer, and as part of the deal, he was going to stay on board to run the company for a few years, and at the end of that time, he would move on and be rewarded very handsomely for the continued growth of the company. He was still young. He could build and sell many more companies in his lifetime. He had a wide open road ahead, so future looked bright, right? Not so much. Stuck in his fear and uncertainty, Tom was driving himself straight into a wall. Instead of focusing on the value of his leadership and his vision, he was approaching this opportunity as that scared kid who was afraid to lose $75. All he could see were the things that could go wrong, all the ways this deal might go tits up. He was scratching and clawing, trying to control and manage everything. He no longer trusted his team or the systems that allowed the company to grow so well over the years. He was playing not to lose instead of focusing on where he wanted to go. Now, instead of being the asset that would usher in a greater level of growth, Tom was becoming a liability to the company, to the buyer, and the employees he cared for. If he stayed stuck in this fear-based perspective, he was going to burn out and piss it all away. So, after a bit of back and forth, he asked me, "Well, what the hell's going on? Why are things like this?" And I told him, "You're not thinking big enough." I challenged him to zoom out, to shift it into a higher perspective. I invited him to consider that one of the reasons his company was so valuable was because of his ability to create a vision and to lead. It's just that right now, fear was having him play small. Fear was keeping him away from where he was most valuable. Fear had him trying to control and manage everything and everybody. So I asked him, how would you navigate this sale and this transition if you weren't afraid? Something seemed to flip for him. A switch went off. He saw it. The perspective had shifted. He said, "You know, I know exactly what I'd do." And then we began to clarify the bold actions he would take and what he would do to run his business as the seasoned adult instead of some scared kid. As a result of our coaching, he was now more aware of how and where fear was driving him. His job was to lead, to hold the big picture, and he realized he can't do that if he's focused solely on all the ways things can go wrong. Now, we may look at the guys at the leadership level as having superpowers, that somehow they're immune to the fear or the doubt the rest of us feel. It's just not true. Tom was just smart enough to have a coach and a system in place to make sure fear didn't get the best of him. We all get scared, but it doesn't mean we have to create our lives or businesses from that small place. So ask yourself, who's leading your company or your life or your marriage? Is it the adult focused on what's possible, or is it that scared kid who's playing not to lose? Here's to all of us experiencing greater freedom, aliveness, peace, and love. Thanks for watching.